Good
All right,
morning.
Wendy, you're there. You've heard from Kerr. What is his reasoning in not playing Embiid against South Sudan?
He wants to win. And that's not a shot at Joel Embiid. What it's a point is that this is not the NBA. And he came out last night and unfortunately, Christine, the rules in the Olympics don't allow us to videotape and present what they say after the game like we have at every other things in a press conference because I wish we could show you the sermon that Steve Kerr gave after the game. And what he basically said, if I could paraphrase, was this is not the NBA. In the NBA, there's a soap opera all the time. You know, star players are very closely monitored. What's their situation? What's their happiness level? You know, it's something that gets everybody through the regular season in the NBA. That is not what this is about. This is about 6 games maximum. And if you don't take care of your business, you won't even get 6 games. And the South Sudan, a team that Team USA had to respect because they beat them by 2 points 2 weeks ago, they have a small lineup. The guy who starts at center for South
Okay,
Sudan,
no
Wenyan
problem.
Gabriel, is a power forward in the NBA. He is not a center. So Steve Kerr said, I'm not going to play my 7'2", big man. I'm going to play basically a lineup of wings. And that's the way he played. And he, is going to continue to do that. And he basically said, we're not here for drama. We're not here to pretend this is the NBA. We're here to put out the best team to win on a night in and night out basis. And it was nothing against Joel Embiid. It had everything to do with the matchup. In the first game against Serbia, that team was very heavy with big men, unlike South Sudan. He played 3 centers throughout that game and played fewer wings. This game, he played more wings, so no Embiid. And then he said, Saturday against Puerto Rico, Joel Embiid will not only be back playing, he'll be back in the starting lineup. So there are things that you can criticize Steve Kerr about. He may make mistakes going forward
Mhm.
in this tournament that you can criticize, but his game plans are working. Team USA has played terrific these 2 games. The lineups he's put out there have worked, and what he's basically saying is this is not the same situation as it would be if Joel Embiid was benched in a February game against the Knicks.
Yeah. Chad, do you have a problem with Kerr not playing Embiid?
No, I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, Kerr has a very, very difficult job. For one, keeping the players happy. Two, getting the players minutes. But again, like he said, they have a max of 6 games to play at the Olympics, and they want to make sure they play all 6 and try to do everything they can to win gold, representing our country. And you have to understand tactics and scheme come into play when it comes to personnel. And he put the best matchup that there was for their team to succeed and win playing against South Sudan. So I really have no problem with it. I think Embiid understands, and I think the rest of the team understands as well. Game to game, the matchups and the personnel are they're gonna differ.
Wendy, I'm going to start with you on this question because there was a lot of talk about the first game with him not playing specific people, Jason Tatum specifically. Do you think that Kerr is creating problems with the rotations that he's choosing?
I do think Jason Tatum found it a little difficult. The way he described it, he talked for the first time about it last night. And he basically said it was a humbling experience because he had just won the championship. He had just signed this $300 million contract, the biggest contract in the history of the NBA. He was announced he was going to be on the cover of 2K, which is a big thing for athletes.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden he gets here and he doesn't play. And so he said very clearly, "I'm not holding a grudge," but it was humbling, and it wasn't something I think he was expecting. And I think he's okay with it, and I think that this is a thing with this particular roster. We have not seen a star-studded roster like this since 2008, and even then, I'm not so sure. I mean, like 8 of these 12 guys were on the All NBA team this year, and some of them didn't make it because of injury. Like Embiid wasn't an All NBA player, but obviously he was the MVP 2 years ago. It is something that's different, but Steve Kerr has made it clear this is the way it's gonna be, and at the end of the
Mhm.
day, Steve Kerr doesn't have to keep him happy. They're not gonna demand a trade tomorrow, and so I think what his point is at the end of this, if you have a gold medal, everything that it took to get there will be forgotten, and Steve Kerr he went chapter and verse about all the things that have happened over the course of when he's been an assistant for Team USA and a head coach for Team USA. He talked about players who got injured or players who got in foul trouble, and he's like, "Look, sometimes you have to prepare your team for drastic situations," and that's just what he's trying to do, and I think it's working. For example, Team USA got criticized for picking Derek White over Jalen Brown when Kawhi Leonard had to withdraw with injury 3 weeks ago. Derek White has been flat out awesome these first two games. He is plus 33 when he's been on the court. Last night, he had 3 steals and a block. He's been terrific. There's nobody talking about whether Derek White was a mistake to bring on this team. And it's not, by the way, it's not just Steve Kerr, Christine. Look at who's on this coaching staff. It's Ty Lue, Eric Spoelstra, Mark Few, Jeff Van Gundy, Steve Kerr. All of those guys are meeting and coming up with this game plan. Um, and and if it's a failure and it doesn't work, it's done with some of the best coaches we have in America coming up with it. So I do think in a single elimination nature like this is going to turn next week. Of course, you make a mistake as a head coach and you'll be grilled for it. But right now, I think it's really hard to criticize anything that Kerr is doing, even if it upsets a player for a short period of time, like has probably happened with Tatum and a little bit with Embiid.
Yeah. Chad, what do you think? Do you think he's creating any problems with these rotations?
No, I don't think he's creating any problems with it. I think some players are going to feel a certain way, but again, these are grown men. These aren't high school kids. These aren't junior high kids. They're grown men. They understand they have a short-term goal at hand, and with that short-term goal at hand, rotations are going to be a little different. They understand that everybody's not going to get as many minutes as they want to. Normally, when they're playing an NBA game, it's not going to be that. And based on the personnel and the matchups, depending on who they're playing, some people might not play. They might not play that week, and they have to understand that the whole point of this journey here in Paris is to win gold and do it by any means necessary. And sometimes you might be sacrificing your playing time. And I think everybody will understand that. Again, it's a difficult thing. It's very humbling. Like what happened to Jason Tatum. I understand how he feels. All these are superstars, very prideful at what they do, and they always want to play. And it's tough. You know, Kerr's in a tough spot. But again, they all have to be on one accord, one band, one sound. They should understand the long-term goal, the short-term goal for that matter, because they're not there that long. 6 games max, you win goal, all will be fine. Oh, I'd be hurt. I'd be hurt. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
As competitive as I am at anything, as anything that I do, if I'm representing my country and I made it to the Olympics, I want to play. I need some minutes. And I'm not talking about 2 or 3 minutes. I need to be out there and get myself in a rhythm. If I'm not able to get myself in a rhythm, facilitate the ball, shoot the ball, become a part of the game, that's going to hurt. Especially someone like Tatum, who just coming off an NBA championship. You know, I'm not all time great at NBA. I'm not sure the terminology for it. All NBA team player. Oh, I'm hurt. That is a very very humbling situation, and it's very difficult, especially for Kerr. So I totally understand.
You know, Christine, I'll say this, and Chad is echoing something that I've heard repeatedly over the last 3 or 4 days.
Hmm.
All of the pro athletes that I've talked to about this, whether they be NFL players or NBA players, have all pretty much said the same thing, that if they were Jason Tatum, they would have been really upset. Because I think what Chad is articulating is the way top athletes feel, which is that they should always play no matter what.
Hmm.
And I do think Steve Kerr, it may have been a little bit of an unforced error to do this in the opening game and not find some minutes for him. But I also think that it's very hard to argue with the results. And,
Hmm.
the one thing that Steve Kerr has been clear on, this is part of the job. When he took this job as Team USA head coach, which is, back in 2021 now, it's been 3 years he's been preparing for this. He knew he'd have to make decisions like this. He knew it wouldn't be that popular. And it's frankly why I think you may see, because I've been texting with other NBA head coaches, and they're like, "Wow, it's a tough call." Like,
Hmm.
they understand the seat that Steve is in, but Chad's comments really echo what I've heard from a lot of players. So I do think even though I think it's the right decision from a win at all cost standpoint, there is a charge that Kerr is paying. Certainly, just within the NBA world as he's going this direction.
All right, I want to talk about a guy that he coaches often, Stephen Curry. He wasn't chefing like he usually does. He scored 3 points, finished 14 fouls. He was only 1 for 9 from the field and missed all 6 of his 3 point attempts. Are you worried at all about his struggles, Wendy?
He's actually had about a 4 game run here where he's just been off. He's shooting under 25% from three over his last 4 games, and 4 games isn't that much, obviously, but 6 games is the whole Olympic tournament. One of the
Hmm.
things he talked about last night was that he's struggling. This is his first Olympics. He has played for the national team before, but he's struggling a little bit with his shots really being cut down. He even admitted last night that he's forcing some shots a little bit because he doesn't know when his shots are coming. If you go back and look at his career over the last 5 seasons with the Warriors, he's averaged 20 shots a game. Of course, there's a lot of games where he gets way more than 20, but he's averaging about 20. That's what he's comfortable. That's what he's usually doing. He's only getting about 9 a game with the national team this summer. That's with all the exhibitions and in the Olympics. And of course, last night, 1 of 9, he got his 9. And he said he struggled with like not knowing when his shots are coming and not being able to shoot your way through that issue. Now we asked Steve Kerr about it, and not surprisingly, Steve Kerr was like, "Look, I have seen Steph have bad games or bad halves so many times I can't even count. And he'll come back and score. He'll go 1 of 9 in the first half and score 30 in the second half, and you'll forget about it." And I do think that's possible. And I do think that's the mentality Steph will have. But there's no doubt Steph's struggling. And it's surprising because the 3-point line is a foot closer in the corners and 3 feet closer at the top of the key. You'd think that Curry would dominate this,
Mhm.
and he did shoot 44% the last time he played for the national team 10 years ago in the World Cup. So he's dominated at this line before. But that's the thing. Team USA's greatest strength is their depth, and they can survive a game where Steph
Mhm.
goes 1 of 9. They can have it's not just his 3-point shooting. He's only shooting 33% over the last 4 games overall, 24% on 3. They can survive a stretch where he shoots 24% on threes.
Mhm.
If what happened to the Warriors, they would not be 4-0 in those games. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. And Steph, I think, is pressing a little bit, but I don't think it's something to really get worried about just yet.
Okay, so Wendy said that Team USA can survive a game. Chad, are you at all concerned that they can't win gold if Steph Curry continues playing the way he is?
No, absolutely not. There are too many. It's too much talent. It's too many skilled players on the bench. The starters are good. Those that are coming off the bench are good. Everybody is great. We're talking about some of the best basketball players here in the states representing our country. So I don't feel bad. I understand Steph struggles, obviously being a volume shooter in NBA games, being able to put up 20 being able to put up 20 shots a game, and being a volume shooter, but not being able to do that, not knowing where your shots are coming. He just has to be a little bit more efficient from the field. And the one thing that you do to fix that is you just keep on shooting.